Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Speron. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm Senior Vice President of Development and Membership at the Human Rights Campaign.
And I'm Nick Harris, Director of Strategic Outreach and Engagement at the Human Rights Campaign, and I use she, they pronouns. Y'all, tonight we're discussing the important moment we're living in for LGBTQ plus equality as we mark HRC President Kelley Robinson's first 100 days on the job and discuss HRC's top priorities for the rest of the year.
You know, Nick and I are really lucky to get to work with Kelley and with so many amazing staff and colleagues across the country who are fighting for LGBTQ equality every single day. And we really wanted to create a space for you, our members and supporters, to have a chance to hear from Kelley on this 100th day of her leadership with us, but also to hear about the really important things that are happening all around the country. And I want to also share, before Kelley was officially on staff, she was already traveling the country doing really important work, from engaging equality voters in Michigan to participating in large-scale events and mobilizing our community as we headed right into the elections. There's a lot going on right now. Obviously, you're paying attention to the news. And I just want to say, HRC members have been so engaged and so helpful through so many of the battles we're facing. And tonight, in addition to Kelley, you're going to hear from Kate Oakley, our state legislative director and senior counsel. And you're also going to hear from our other colleague, Jay Brown, who's senior vice president of research and programs and training, and Justin Unga, director of strategic initiatives. So Nick, take it away.
So y'all, I have the great pleasure to introduce Kelley Robinson, president of the Human Rights Campaign. Y'all, the first Black queer woman to lead the organization. Kelley has spent the last 15 years creating and leading winning campaigns and programs. She's been at the forefront in the fight for bodily autonomy and racial and gender equity, centering marginalized communities and building political power. As Chris said, these 100 days have been packed with travel, meeting members and supporters, congressional testimony, political activism, speaking engagements, and grassroots coalition building. Kelley has already provided leadership on major advocacy campaigns, from getting the Respect for Marriage Act passed and the Michigan Civil Rights Act amended, to calling out Tennessee and the New York Times, from participating in congressional hearings to attending the State of the Union as a guest of House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Kelley is definitely on the move with HRC. In just a moment, you're going to hear from Kelley and hear all about her experience. But first, you all, let's start with a quick video that captures some of the past few months.
Joining me right now is Kelley Robinson.
Kelley Robinson,
president of the Human Rights Campaign.
I'm coming into this role with a mandate.
We don't get anywhere by leaving anyone behind. We're going all in on trans justice, racial justice, for reproductive justice too. This moment is about the survival for LGBTQ plus kids and our families.
We see a direct line from attacks led by political leaders to the deadly events that have transpired this week.
We must take action. Here at the Human Rights Campaign, we're doing everything that we can to win.
Just last year, there were 315 anti-LGBTQ plus bills. We defeated 91% of them. We took important steps towards ending the blood donation ban on gay and bi plus men. Together, we passed the Respect for Marriage Act.
This is huge. And I also want to say this is a matter of policy catching up with where people are. We're going to continue that fight ahead.
The power that we've accumulated, we're going to use it to hold elected officials accountable.
If you're going to be pushing bad legislation in this state, not now.
Not today, not ever.
We sent a rainbow wave to the U.S. Congress. Today represents a new day in our movement. We're gonna keep building workplaces that work for all of us, schools where all kids are welcome. Let's fight together, let's do it without exception, and let's get free.
Please virtually give it up. Okay, I realize I just got unmuted. Y'all, I just said my president is so dope. Please help me give it up virtually for our president of HRC, Kelley Robinson. Come on, Kelley, come on. Come on. Did we hear it? Give it up. Come on. There she is. Okay. See, that was
You
the
know I'm
delay,
here for the
y'all.
drama sometimes, Nick. Don't mind all that.
That was the curtain rising, President.
There we go. Nick, thank you so much. Chris, thank you. Y'all give it up for Nick in the chat. Nick has been somebody that's holding down all of our communities. Nick once told me that there isn't a place in this state, the state in this country, where she doesn't have a friend. And I know that's true because of the amazing community of leaders that we have on the phone today. And I love y'all chiming in about where you're representing on today. I saw Tennessee in the chat. I saw Florida. I saw Texas. I saw California. I saw Maine. Look, we are everywhere, and that's why we fight everywhere. We're not giving up on our homes, y'all. And I'm so proud to be a part of this movement fight. I can't believe it. Today is my 100-day mark. And this community is just incredible. You know, there's been this quote on my mind for the last couple of years that I might have told you before, but it's from Lucille Clifton, the poet laureate of Maryland. She said, "Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed." And has failed, y'all. That's not by accident. That's because of people like you, our HRC volunteers and leaders. You are a testament to this. So I thank you for your fight. I thank you for the resiliency you never should have had to have. And today, y'all, I'm celebrating the fact that we are here, that we have made it through another day, that we refuse to give up, that we refuse to give ground, and that we are going to fight like hell for our homes and our families. I'm celebrating this first 100 days, and I'm also cheersing to many, many more alongside y'all. And look, I want to put it frankly, 2023 ain't been no joke, okay? We started the year with Mercury and Mars in retrograde, just to give you a sense of what we were dealing with. But it's true, the season of our movement, it's given us bright lights, but it's given us moments of deep despair and darkness too. Y'all, in my first 100 days, we've seen some of the lowest of lows together. You know, just months ago at Club Q nightclub, we saw a shooting that stole 5 lives from our community, all while the attack at Pulse is still so present for too many of us. Just months ago, Roe v. Wade was overturned. 2022 was another deadly year for trans lives. On top of that, we continue to see hundreds of anti-LGBTQ plus bills move in states across the country. But even in the midst of all that darkness, it's you that helped me to remember the light, because we've also had some incredible victories as well. It's also true that in my first 100 days, Brittany Griner came home, y'all. That's thanks to the Biden administration, the advocacy of organizations like ours, like HRC. It's also true that MJ Rodriguez finally got her flowers and became the first trans person to win a Golden Globe. It's also true that together we sent a rainbow wave to the U.S. Congress. We passed the Respect for Marriage Act. We ended a decades-old ban on gay and bisexual men donating blood. And even though we saw hundreds of anti-LGBTQ bills move in states across the country, we defeated 91% of them, y'all. And today, we're actually seeing history in the making in Michigan, where the Senate just passed the statewide LGBTQ plus protections by updating the Civil Rights Act in the state. That is huge, y'all. Right here at HRC, we've launched compelling and critical programs and resources like our 11th annual Municipal Equality Index and our online, offline hate and violence report, where nearly 40,000 people joined us in our National Day of Reading to celebrate trans stories and to engage our kids and celebrate identity, y'all. All of that happened, and it's only been 100 days. You know, there's this phrase called simultaneity that I've also been saying a lot recently. The idea that you can have two conflicting feelings in the same moment, in the same breath. Y'all, we know that you can feel both joy and grief. You can feel both hope and despair. You can feel victorious and also a little bit defeated all at the same time. And I have felt that to my core in this first 100 days. But the task in times like this, it's not to look away from the darkness. It's to make a choice anyway. It's to choose the light, to choose hope, to choose victory, to choose joy, and to use that to propel ourselves and our movement forward. And y'all, that's the work of the Human Rights Campaign, the work that I'm so proud to be a part of here with you all. And I do know, like, in this moment, in our movement and for our nation, we're sitting here at the crossroads, right? We've got to show up and show out, yes, for LGBTQ plus freedom and liberation without exception, and also for racial justice, and also for trans justice, for reproductive justice, for all of the things that impact our people and our lives. And I'm proud to say that so far in 2023, HRC has been tracking over 400 anti-equality bills that have advanced in 37 states. And I'm proud because we are tracking them across all of the states and fighting back everywhere because we are everywhere. Of those bills, more than 175 of them, 175, have targeted transgender people, including more than 100 gender-affirming care bans, more than 35 sports bans, more than 22 bathroom bans. Y'all better be mad up in this chat because I know that you're mad every day when you wake up and see what they are doing to our people in our community. They are trying to deny us fundamental care. They're trying to deny us fundamental rights. And they're working to silence our identities, our culture, and our history. And guess what their latest tactic is? Banning drag performances. More than 30 anti-drag bills, including one that just became law in Tennessee. Y'all, make no mistake, we see exactly what's happening for what it is. This is not a new strategy. It's an old one they're bringing back, trying to sow hate, fear, and chaos against communities that are at the margins. They're doing it now to the LGBTQ plus community with a focus on trans folks. But we saw this before when they've done it to Black folks, when they've done it to immigrants, when they've done it to women. This is something that we have to stand up and fight back with our whole chest, because I know that this is one of those moments, and I believe this, y'all. This is one of those moments that people are going to look back to and ask us where we were and what we did. And I'm proud to say that I was going to be standing with the Human Rights Campaign. I was going to be fighting with the Human Rights Campaign. And I am certain that we are going to fight this battle in such a way that makes a difference generations from now. And I'm so proud. I am so proud to be engaged in this fight, in this important work with all of you. So I know you're frustrated. I know you're mad. But guess what? We're going to use all of that as the energy that we need to fight and to get free and to do it together, y'all, because I'm not letting them steal our rights. I'm not letting them steal our families. I'm certainly not going to let them take away our joy, y'all. So on this call, we're going to give you more information about what's happening and also about what we are going to do about it. So thank you so much for joining tonight.
Kelly, thank you so much. That was amazing. And I know we're going to have you back again to answer some questions from our members and supporters. And it'll be a great opportunity for you to remind folks how important it is for everyone out there around the country to be engaged and to help us in these giant fights that we're facing today. So thank you so much. And we're excited to have you back in a little bit. Now I'm going to turn the camera toward a dear colleague who is the Senior Vice President of Programs, Research, and Training, Jay Brown, who works with an incredible team of folks, really helping to improve the lived experience for LGBTQ people everywhere. So Jay, let me invite you to take it away.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you, everyone. It's so great to be here with you all. Chris said my name's Jay. I use he, him pronouns, and I get to lead the programs at HRC that empower individuals and strengthen institutions and increase understanding about LGBTQ people in the U.S. and around the globe. We're working in adoption and foster care agencies and schools and universities, in hospitals and long-term care communities, and in some of the biggest companies in the world. And I got to tell you, these are some wild times. Trans folks are more visible than we've ever been before, but we're also living in a real state of emergency. I want to focus today on what these attacks in the states mean for trans and queer youth and their families. The most serious threats, as Kelly mentioned earlier, are the bans on life-saving healthcare for transgender youth. So I want to spend a little bit of time really talking about what that means. Now, these bills have already been signed into law in 4 states, and they're pending in dozens of others. Some of these bans extend into adult healthcare as well. Now, I'm a transgender man, and I'm also a dad, so I'm especially speaking to you right now in the audience who are fellow parents out there. We all want the same thing for our kids. We want health, happiness, and a sense of belonging in the world. But politicians who don't have an ounce of medical training and have no idea what is happening in our homes are putting all that in jeopardy. They're passing laws telling parents and doctors that they can't provide their own children with medically necessary care. These politicians writing the bills I'm talking about right now, they don't even consult doctors and medical experts who would have told them this kind of care is not only medically necessary, it's safe. In fact, every major medical association, including the American Medical Association and the American Academy of Pediatrics, opposes these bills. They go against decades of medical research and take away access to necessary medicine and unbiased mental health care that is critical for every kid. There are more than 1.3 million doctors who endorse these facts. Now, I get that this is new territory for many people, and folks are still learning about trans youth, but that's the exact problem. The government should not be jumping in where it has no business and making it harder for any parent to provide a stable, healthy home, or for any kid to live a stable, healthy life. And there are lots of amazing families who are doing just that. I'll be with some of these families this weekend on the ground at South by Southwest for the premiere of a film we supported called The Dads. This film, which is amazing, features many of the members of HRC's Parents for Trans Equality Council and was created by Lucina Fisher, a longtime member of the council. It centers the stories of dads standing up for their trans and queer kids, even in hostile times. Stay tuned on HRC's outlets for ways to watch the film when it's released. We need more folks like these dads, championing equality and fairness for trans and queer kids everywhere. And we need your help. Now is the time to raise your voices loud. They aren't only coming for medical care, they're coming for the rights of teachers and librarians and workplaces to just simply treat LGBTQ people fairly. And they're coming for your rights as parents. They want to eradicate our rights as parents, and they want to eradicate my right to exist as a trans person. Ultimately, they want to push us all back into the closet. They're politicians who are power hungry, but we have more power. We must push back, as Kelly says, without exception. And I'm so glad to have you all as our supporters.
Jay, thank you so much for that. And, we sometimes talk about really heavy stuff, and it's hard to keep our optimism going. But, talking about the fear of eradication is a terrifying concept. And the reality is this is, in fact, what so many folks in our community are facing, what these lawmakers are trying to do. And we just can't take this lightly. And a large portion of what we need to do is mobilize our members and supporters to help. And Jay, I know your programs really bring so many people into the work. And I just want to remind everyone on the call today to join HRC by texting JOIN 472-472. We're going to drop that in the chat as well, so you can be more engaged and find out more about things like the movie premiere at South by Southwest, by the great work that Jay and his team are doing to really help keep people going. So really, really important work there. We're going to now shift to what's happening in the States. So I'm going to invite you all to hear from two terrific colleagues. Kate Oakley, who's our state legislative director and senior counsel, and she's going to discuss the efforts with over 400 discriminatory bills happening in the states. Following that, you're going to hear from Justin Ungar, who brings over 15 years of public policy experience to HRC. He's HRC's Director of Strategic Initiatives. He's going to talk about Michigan and Arizona. So really, really amazing colleagues. We're excited for you to hear from them. So let me turn it over to Kate and Justin.
Thank you, everybody. I'm going to start by talking about what we're seeing in state legislatures. As Kelly mentioned, LGBTQ people are again facing historic levels of attack in state legislatures. Kelly mentioned Tennessee, and I think Tennessee is a great place to start. Tennessee has passed more anti-LGBTQ laws than any other state, with more than 14 laws passed since 2015. More than 14. That is more anti-LGBTQ laws than any other state in the country. Tennessee has been a part of and also often led the way on every discriminatory trend that can harm and exclude LGBTQ people, especially transgender youth. Tennessee has innovated novel attacks on LGBTQ people, including a bathroom law that requires Tennessee businesses to that allow trans folks to use the restroom consistent with their gender identity to post a sign outside saying, and I paraphrase, warning transgender folks may be within. Governor Bill Lee has also just signed the first ever ban on some drag performances into law. Earlier this week, HRC took out a full-page ad in the Tennessean, calling out the governor's hypocrisy and setting the stage for a rally that Kelley is leading against the discriminatory legislation that we are seeing in the state. In addition to innovative anti-LGBTQ legislation, Tennessee is also on trend. Tennessee already has a law regulating gender-affirming care, but as of just a few weeks ago, Tennessee will now prohibit trans youth from being able to access age-appropriate, best practice medical care that can and does save lives. This is terrifying for transgender youth. It's terrifying for their families, many of whom will be forced to choose to either lose their homes or not be able to provide their children with medically necessary, potentially life-saving care. Tennessee has banned transgender kids from playing school sports consistent with their gender identity, not once, not twice, but 3 times. 3 times. They've passed religious refusal laws. They've banned kids from using the restroom consistent with their gender identity at school. And they were early on the bandwagon of curriculum censorship, forbidding kids from being able to talk about sexuality in the classroom without a truly outrageous parental notification. Tennessee legislators have embraced anti-LGBTQ extremism, and law by law, these legislators are turning Tennessee into an unlivable state for LGBTQ folks, particularly transgender youth and their families. Tennessee is the worst offender, but other states like Texas, Mississippi, Florida, and Oklahoma are too close behind. In all, HRC is opposing more than 420 bills this year, more than 175 of which specifically target the transgender community. More than 100 would forbid transgender youth from being able to access age-appropriate, best practice gender-affirming care. It is worth saying that again. Kelley said it, Jay said it, I said it, and I'm about to say it again. More than 100 of these bills would forbid transgender youth from being able to access age-appropriate, best practice gender-affirming care. This is a historic number of anti-transgender bills, but they're not coming from nowhere. And they're also not addressing actual problems in states. They're coming from national opponents of LGBTQ equality, including the Heritage Foundation, the Alliance Defending Freedom, which has been designated as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center, and the Family Policy Council. As Kelley said, we are fighting these bills everywhere because we are everywhere. We have offices across the country, including in states like Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Texas, Michigan, Arizona, and many more. We have staff living across the country. We are fighting for ourselves, our families, our friends, and our community. And we are doing it everywhere because the fight is everywhere. With that, I want to turn it over to Justin to share a little bit more about what that work looks like.
Great. Thank you, Kate. I want to encourage everybody to send Kate a virtual bouquet. It is really, as our state legislative director, it's really this time of the year, many folks in our team do not get a lot of sleep. Hey, everybody. My name is Justin Unga. I'm HRC's Director of Strategic Initiatives, and I use he, him pronouns. It is good to be here with everybody. And I'm here to talk about how we fight back, how we have to be clear-eyed about the road ahead, who our opposition is, and how it will take all of us rowing in the same direction to get to the other side of these attacks. First, it's important to really recognize that as a pro-equality movement that serves people who are under attack, we're in good company. The politicians and judges who are upending our reproductive rights, attacking LGBTQ families, and undermining our access to the ballot are working together, and they will not stop until the majority of us who oppose their dangerous policies take a stand together and fight back. I'll say a little bit about how we do this in parts of the country where we fought back the bad guys and advanced progress. As a political strategy, HRC, there's a simple theory of change that goes like this. 1, to show up. 2, to build political power. And then 3, to exercise that political power to enact lasting reforms. What do I mean by showing up? What do I mean by show up? Well, there's a saying by the late great Congressman John Lewis, and it goes something like this: when you pray, move your feet. Showing up means you turn your vision of the world that you want into actions that you can do right now. It means picking up the phone and calling your lawmaker and demanding that they stand up for transgender children. We march in the streets, cause good trouble, and vote. What do I mean by building political power? Number 2, building political power is demanding a seat at the table. There's another saying, and I promise this is my last political saying. There's another saying in politics that when you don't have a seat at the table, then you're likely on the menu. Everybody right now in state legislatures across the country, LGBTQ families are on the menu. Politicians are building their political careers on the backs of transgender children. For us, everybody in this room, virtual room, building political power has to be about making sure that you, if you can't yourself occupy a seat in Congress, occupy a seat in your state legislature, that you find somebody who represents you and you make sure that they get a seat at the table. And finally, we exercise that political power by ensuring that the folks we work to elect bring our values to the dais, right? So if you can't run yourself, make sure that you find somebody to support. It's exactly this dynamic that is playing out as we speak in real time in Michigan. As Chris had indicated earlier, Michigan has actually been a multi-year investment for HRC long before the Trump administration. But it was really during the wake of the 2016 election, that moment of resistance that came into focus, similar to where our community is today. The HRC burrowed into places like Michigan to plot a long-term fight for equality. And it began by organizing and developing coalitions across movements. We continued by electing more pro-equality lawmakers in state legislatures, and our progress surged when we elected and then re-elected a pro-equality governor, Governor Whitmer. And it was through this lather, rinse, repeat of building up, showing up, building up power, and using that power to achieve lasting reforms that we were able to do this. And I'm very happy to announce that just hours ago, the Michigan legislature took action to stand by all Michiganders and inscribe into law protections for LGBTQ people across the state. It's an historic moment for Michigan and a bright light of possibility amid all of these attacks. It is possible to get through this dark moment, and it is going to be, I promise you, through this lather, rinse, repeat. It starts by showing up. This is where I'm gonna give you a little bit of homework. I promise it won't be hard. Here's how you do that. 1, 2, 3, everybody. How we show up. Number 1 is find your legislators, state legislators in your home state, your congressional legislatures at the federal level. Very easy website that does that. You could also just type "who are my legislators" in your search bar. Very easy. That'll pop up. But there's another site that is openstates.org. It was quite simple. You put in your address and it'll spit back out for you who your legislators are. And number 2, your homework. Yeah, slide now. Thank you. Number 2, your homework is part of your homework is to find 3 ways to get those legislators' attention and make yourselves heard. And I'm going to give you 3 hints on how to do this. The 3 things, and I'll confess right now, I did work in government in Congress, so I have a little bit of insider knowledge on what gets a lawmaker's attention. Number 1 might not be what you're thinking of. My personal favorite number 1 is social media. Find your lawmaker on social media and directly engage them there. Tag your lawmaker. Tell them you live in their district and you are a constituent. You demand that they stand up for LGBTQ families. In many cases, everybody, the lawmaker will see that on Twitter before their staff sees this in their email. Number 2, how do we get their attention is to call them. Pick up the phone and call them. One of the ways you can be real loud to your lawmaker is to make their offices real loud with phone calls. If they walk into their office on Monday morning and their phones are ringing off the hook and their staff is saying, It's been like this all morning. That lawmaker is going to know that they are in the hot seat. Number 3 is write to them. Every lawmaker gets a report on what their constituents are asking for. The more people in their community demand something, the higher it is on their list. So our job is to make sure that we, our families, our children are at the top of that list. All right, friends, in my HRC world, this is where we put up the slides. Just wanted to show a little bit of an example of what numbers look like and how they impact policy and lawmaking. And it's something that Kelly alluded to earlier. When we passed the Respect for Marriage Act, it was HRC who ran thousands and tens of thousands of phone calls and letters into those congressional offices so that those members of Congress walked into the door and their staffs was saying, oh my goodness, we got thousands of letters, emails and phone calls and tweets at us about this Respect for Marriage Act. Yeah, we did similar actions as HRC in Tennessee for the FDA to end the blood ban on gay blood donation. And we also did this with the New York Times, quite important, slightly different. We really called the New York Times to task and asked them and demanded that they wrote and reported about transgender Americans responsibly and accurately. The last way that we make an impact, and there's certainly many more, but the last one for your homework today is to find 6 friends and ask them to do all of this again, how we show up. Yeah? All right. Chris had indicated that there was a way for you to enter our activism portal. And I'm going to ask my friends to put that in the Chiron so that you are able to simply send us a text. And then the next time, hopefully, there you go. It's in the Chiron now. And the next time that we see each other, it's hopefully out in the country where we're fighting back these attacks. That's all for me. Thank you very much. And I'll turn it back over to my friends.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Kate. So appreciate your great update. And I don't know about you, but I'm experiencing full-on simultaneity, as Kelly mentioned it. I am angry about what's happening around the country. It is infuriating to sort of see these terrible things. And I remain incredibly hopeful about the opportunities we also see where we are making progress. And people shouldn't have to leave their homes or leave their states in order to be free. And our job is to make sure that those folks have the help and support. And the best way to do that is for you to be more involved in our work and to help us do that. As you've seen in the chat, you can text join HRC to 472-472 to add your name to the help. And from there, we will guide you through all the steps of activism that we need you to help with. Ask your friends and family to do the same. So we're going to bring the panel back to for some question and answers. But first, I wanted to give Kelly a chance to share anything she wanted to sort of share beforehand. And then we're going to dive into some quick questions for folks as we wrap up this really amazing call-in opportunity to celebrate Kelly's 100th anniversary, 100 days, but also, the work ahead. So Kelly.
Sorry, you might hear a little kid in the background crying. He's as devastated about what is happening across the world as all of us. He's also devastated that his bedtime is 6:35 p.m. But I feel y'all in the chat, like I feel your anger, your frustration, your disbelief that in 2023 we are right here. And I think one of the things that keeps me hanging on is that old quote from Malcolm X. He said, "We're not outnumbered, we're just out organized," right? There are fundamentally more of us than there are of them. 1 in 4 of Generation Z is a part of this community. 1 in 7 of all adults by 2030 will be a member of the LGBTQ plus community. That is huge. Our task here is to not assume that demographics will be destiny, but do the organizing needed to fight back and ensure that we are as powerful as our numbers represent. That's possible, y'all. It's possible because you keep showing up. You keep doing the things that Justin put forward for us to take action on. And when we do that together, we're going to win, flat out. So thank y'all for being here. And I'm excited for the questions.
I'm going to jump in really quickly. So I'm just going to say I love this platform, but Kelly, it cannot keep up with the real chat in YouTube. It is on fire. We have parents, we have folks giving all of our panelists so much love, and there's so much love in the chat for you. So one of the questions that came to us It said, Kelley, in spite of these difficult challenges, what gives you hope, inspires you to carry the work forward?
So much. It really is the people. Every time I get to travel around the country and visit with you and see you, it's clear your passion, your commitment, the depth of engagement in your communities is palpable. And then when I zoom out, even though day to day it might feel like, oh, we sliding backward. But when I zoom out, I know change is happening. I've said this before. 2 generations ago, my aunt was born into slavery. And in fact, I can remember a moment in the last 100 days that I felt this progress. It was around the Respect for Marriage Act. And sure, we're all excited that it passed, but I was a little skeptical when I was actually in the Capitol. I mean, look, I love organizing, I love power building, but government itself, I don't watch C-SPAN for fun personally. That's not my jam, Even when you look at the Senate, it's like 10 white guys named John and not one black woman down there. They've got work to do. But when I was in the Senate chambers and watching that bill pass, it was the first time in my adult life that I can remember my humanity and my dignity being validated as a Black queer woman in the halls of government on both sides of the aisle. That was important. It was in the same chamber that just 20 years ago was voting to ban same-sex marriage. And now it's a law of the land, just 20 years later. If that kind of progress is possible in 2 short decades, think of what could happen 2 decades from now. So I'm hopeful about that. I'm inspired because it doesn't happen by accident. It happens because people like us show up.
Amen to that. Thank you for helping us carry that work forward. So this question is actually for Jay, and it comes from Jenny in Maryland. How do I explain what gender affirming care is to my grandmother?
Well, first I'd just say thank you for talking to Grandma. Like, honestly, that is the first thing that folks need to start doing. I think folks are so worried about getting it wrong or not knowing all the facts that they're just silent on this. And we need more people being vocal and engaging in conversation around basic human rights, right? And I think that's all you got to do is connect with Grandma on a shared value level, right? So Grandma cares about her grandkids. She could think about, if her grandkids needed medical care and the government was trying to get in the way of that medical care, I am sure she would be on the right side of this. That's all you need to do. And then we have a ton of resources on our site too. And I think we've dropped it in the chat on this call here to help those conversations get going. But really just start having those conversations, talk to people in your network, talk about why this is important to you, and then do the work that Justin and Kelley and others have been talking about on this call.
Thank you, Jay. So we need to keep it simple. Y'all, if you're not talking to your parents and grandparents, start tonight. This is a great time to jump in.
Totally. And Nick, I think going back to what Kelley said, it's not just members of the LGBTQ community who are outnumbering sort of where we were a decade ago. Our allies are out there in force. It sounds like we're alone, but we are not. So having that conversation is probably going to go better than you think. And if it's not, there are tools out there to make it easier.
I just want to share this. I actually had the conversation with my grandma. She saw the HRC commercials. So you can have it. If I can have it with my grandmother in the Deep South, I know y'all can have these conversations. So the next question is for Kate, and it's coming from Dane in South Florida. What are the national implications of all these state level attacks on the LGBTQ plus community?
Well, that's a great question. And I know I saw in the chat too that somebody was talking about litigation. And I think it's important to say, HRC has a litigation department. Many of the other organizations in the space also do litigation. Folks work together to make sure that we are challenging as many of these discriminatory laws as we can. But litigation takes a long time. And even when we win, I'm thinking about, for example, Gavin Grimm, who was a plaintiff in my home state of Virginia, where he challenged a discriminatory law or discriminatory policy by his school. He won. It took almost 10 years. And I think when we're looking at these kids out there in the world who are not able to access age-appropriate, medically necessary care, they don't have 10 years to wait. So we have to do that litigation work. And hopefully we will be successful in the courts. And we also have to work really hard in the legislatures to prevent these laws from passing in the first place and ultimately to repeal them, right? Sometimes we might actually get further in a repeal effort than we would in a litigation effort, right? So we have to be bringing every single tool that we have to bear on these fights. But I think one of the most important things to take away is that it is not now, nor has it ever been, about whether or not trans kids can consent to the kind of care that they need to be able to live. If they're minors, their parents are part of this conversation. It's their parents and their doctors and the kid together who are having a conversation about what's in their best interest. Nobody is rushing into anything. It is important to say it is not now, nor has it ever been, about women's sports. It is not now, nor has it ever been even truly about marriage. And it's definitely not actually about protecting women from being assaulted in the bathroom, because if we care about women's safety, there's a whole long list of things that we can do. If we cared about women's sports, there's a whole long list of things that we can do. That's not what our opponents are doing. The through line for our opponents is whatever they can do to claw back on full legal and lived equality for LGBTQ people. They don't care about sports. They don't care about gender affirming care. They don't care about bathrooms. They don't care about marriage. What they care about is preventing LGBTQ people from living our best lives. That is what they care about. That's the through line on all of this. And so it's really important that we fight them on the facts, because they are misrepresenting the facts. They are twisting the truth, and we have to set the record straight. And we also have to make sure that at the same time, we're not letting them fool us. We know that they are coming after us because they don't believe in us. So we have to make sure that we are fighting in every conceivable venue, and that we are attacking them on the facts and making sure that we set the record straight, and that we are also making sure that we're addressing what they're really addressing, which is that they want us to just disappear.
Thank you, Chris. If I could do one quick thing for you, I just got to give a shout to Marilyn, who's in the chat and says, I'm 71 and I'm talking to the young people. So let's also recognize that that goes the other way as well. Chris, I'm handing it back to you.
Good job, Marilyn. We appreciate you in there. And we love seeing all the great comments happening in the chats as well. Kate, it's just a great reminder of, the moral backlash that we're experiencing. And once again, progress always yields backlash. And, we are really navigating those spaces, because we know, even when it feels like we may not be winning, we're winning public opinion. We're winning the next generation of folks. We just have to do our work, and we can't sit back and wait for heroes to come bail us out. It is on all of us to do this work together, and we have to mobilize and generate more people to do this work. And that said, while we're navigating in the state legislatures, Justin, I have a question for you. We also are thinking about the future. So one question that came in from one of our members around the country is, what are we doing to lay the groundwork for the next big election cycle that's coming up?
What a big question.
You gotta sound enthusiastic about that.
It's a big question, and it gives me a little bit of a stomachache, but there's light at the end of the tunnel, everybody. We're about 600 days from the election. So this is really our time to take stock and build our people power. Right, we got the next 300 days before we start voting in the South Carolina and Iowa caucuses. We did this study last year with Bowling Green University, and in combination of our polling and research, we learned a few things. One of those things was what Kelly alluded to earlier, and that is the big bright future that is our electorate. By 2040, LGBTQ voters will represent nearly a fifth of all voters nationally. And in places like Texas and Arizona, here's a bright light, everybody. In places like Texas and Arizona, these numbers nearly double between 2020 and 2040. And at the same time as all that, there's this concept of the new American majority. But the new American majority is historically underserved and underrepresented communities who are now the vast majority. I'm talking about communities of color, unmarried women, young people. They now comprise the vast majority of the electorate. That, as we learn these things, we see these as opportunities. And as we think about this new era of our movement, and as how Kelly has focused us on this idea of liberation for all, and about how movements across movements, whether that's racial justice, social justice, education, gun violence reform, we're all bound together by a common enemy. And I don't need to know that. I know you know that there are the MAGA radicals of the world. But as we realize and come together across movements, we've begun right now in real time to lay down tracks for really meaningful coalition work, to exercise that people power that will help us do that lather, rinse, repeat that I talked about earlier, to show up, to build political power, to exercise that political power. We're working with organizations like the National Education Association, Every Town for Gun Safety, the NAACP, again, to bring to bear our collective people power. And it is through that work that we will activate and turn out millions of pro-equality voters across this country. So I look forward, next time we see each other, I want to share more with you, and hopefully we'll be sharing the fruits of that work.
Justin, thank you so much. I can't believe 600, how many days? 600 and...
It's I think it's like 607, 608.
Wow. All right. Coming up soon.
Counting.
The one thing I want to say before we turn the last question over to Kelly is, HRC's reach and breadth is really vast, and I really encourage you to log on to hrc.org and really look at the work that we do, sign up for our action alerts, really keep in touch with what we're doing. We are really showing up and trying to be there for our community in every aspect of the lived experience. And folks only sometimes think about us as political, or they may only know a little bit of our workplace work, but the depth of the work that we're doing is really incredibly rich. And I hope you'll spend time exploring, understanding, and getting more involved in the work that we do. And you'll see that we are literally helping to make the lived experience better for the entire LGBTQ plus community in every place they need to access services and have a lived experience. So the last question, Kelly, is for you. It's from Noelle in Portland, Oregon. And they wanted to know what surprised you about the Human Rights Campaign during your first 100 days.
Oh man, I think all the love that we've got, y'all. There's just not a lot of places that people come with their whole self. I met some of y'all that met your spouses here, your ex-spouses here, your best friends. I mean, people that are bringing their daughters and their sons and their kids to different events. This is huge. This is really a space I think people come authentically to build power with each other, but also to be with each other, to build the kind of community that we're ultimately fighting for. And at the end of the day, the goal isn't like some sort of like political power grab. The goal is for us to be able to be our full selves every single day in community. And I think the people of HRC demonstrate that every single day with a fierceness in fighting with and for one another that is truly remarkable. It's a beautiful thing. That's probably my thing that's just kind of knocked me over about this place, is the incredible nature of who we are.
I love it. Well, Kelly, thank you so much. And thanks for leading the operation for us. It is so incredible to get to work with you and all of our amazing colleagues here. And if you are compelled and want to be more involved, I hope you'll take the time to join the Human Rights Campaign. You could donate at hrc.org/donate. You can be more involved in our work by texting 472-472, text join to 472-472. And we will be doing these more regularly. The more involved you are, the more information you'll have about what we do. But we look forward to seeing you at the next one. And thanks again for all your help and advocacy. We really appreciate your help and support. We all are in this together. And remember, backlash is because of progress, and we are going to continue to make progress. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care.